Okay, that's better. All right, so we got Nyang means what?
To speak,
Yeah, to
to
speak.
talk.
That's good. And then Peikube is it's like Ikube. Let's see if we can find it in the dictionary. I've never actually tried to look for it in the dictionary. Ikobe. So here's the verb ikobe, and it's a irregular verb, so it has a different nominal form. Just means that when you use it as a noun, it has this form, ekobe, and it means to live, to be alive. So when we say that ikobe, we put the pe at the front. That just means that it's like vos, plural, to you, you plural. So pekobe, if you had to guess based on this definition, what does it mean?
You are alive?
Yeah.
Something like that.
You're alive. It's like it's a really funny way of like that's how we greet each other in Tupi. You're alive. Y'all are
Oh,
alive. We'll
okay.
say it like that. Y'all are alive. Pickle Bay. How
Good thing,
good.
right? Good thing. You're alive.
Exactly, yeah. There's another one that's common. Edeyud. Edeyud. Let's see if I can find that. I didn't put the thing. I'm gonna edit that so it highlights. There we go. Mamam pe suipe edeyud. Bacchus. Edeyud. Yud means chegar. Vir. So it means like to come. And so if I wanna in old Tupi a way of like of uh cumprimendindo, I don't know how to say that in English. Greeting someone is you would say like you came. So Ereyud, you came. And that just means like hi. It just is a way of saying hello, Ereyud. So Pekobe. So they're kind of funny in Tupi, these things that we say to say hi to each other. So y'all are alive. And then let's look at this
Oh, that
other word.
actually also.
Huh?
No, but that you came also makes sense in Portuguese. We actually say that too.
Uh, Venhas. Venhas. I don't know. That's pretty cool.
No, but like, I'm glad you came, this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad you came. I guess we do say that in even English. Welcome. You came well, right? Uh, Era Yurkatu.
Um,
You came well. Bem-vindo. Have a good coming, right? We say that in a lot of languages, actually, right? Era Yud. You came. Your arrival. That's great.
I've never thought about it that way. That's interesting.
Neither have I. Yeah. In this moment, we're learning together. Bem-vindo. Welcoming. And so yeah, so that one's an alternative. I'll just put the Edeyud. You came. And then opakatu. This is a good word to learn. Do you know what it means off the top of your head? Or you can guess?
Actually, no idea.
No
Sorry.
problem. Does it look like there's any words that you recognize? Like it's two words or something? We had one katu. Do you remember that word? Katu.
Not really.
So katu, that's a good word to remember. It means bem or bom, boa, good, well, katu, and it gets used a lot as an adjective. Um, and the adjective or adverb doesn't necessarily mean like you know. For example, we have nyeeng to speak, and then if we want to say you speak well, we're gonna put a katu at the end. Nyeeng katu, and the K gets eaten by the G, so it becomes Nyeengatu. You speak well. To speak well.
Um,
Does that make sense? You know what Nyeengatu is, right?
yeah.
Yeah, it's a language. So that's literally where that atu at the end, katu, means to speak well. Nyeengatu. Katu is well or good. Um, or it can mean like a lot, like, oh, ele é bem tranquilo, right? It means like he's really good. It doesn't necessarily mean good. It just means like a lot. So it can be a like that as well. Katu. So the other word is opa. Opa, but it's not opa, it's opa. Opa means tudo or todos or todas. So everything or everyone. So opa is a useful word as well. When you put it together, opakatu, it doesn't really change the meaning that much. It just still means tudo or todos. Like so the katu, you could just write opa. Like opa means all or every. That doesn't actually mean every, it means all. And then opakatu also just means all. But I think the katu gives a sense of totality, like more all, like everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So opakatu is just a particle which means tudo, everything. Then the next one is tupinha enga. What does this one mean?
To speak to be.
Maybe, yeah. Tupinha enga. So tupi is obviously the language, right? And then enga is a noun of nyeeng. So when we turn a verb like nyeeng into a noun, we just add the a at the end, right? And then it becomes a noun. Pretty easy. But this noun, this basic form of the noun, when we do that, the noun is referring to like the action. So this is just like English. It has a genitive relationship, right? So tupi nyeanga is nyeanga G tupi, the language of tupi. But in Portuguese we would say like lingua G tupi. In English we can just say tupi language, like that. So tupi is also like English, where you can just say tupi nyeanga. And so in Tupi they call the Portuguese guys pero. So you can guess what would they call Portuguese language?
Peronha.
Perfect. Peronha. You got it. Portuguese language. Just like that. Perna. It thinks that I'm trying to write in English, so it always corrects things that don't need to be corrected. Okay, cool. So, opakatu tupinyaenga rupi. This is an interesting thing. I don't think you've ever seen this before. Rupi. Let's skip that for now, and then we have nyeengara. Do you have any idea of what nyeengara might mean? So we notice the one familiar base here is to speak. So it has something to do with speaking, something to do with that base root of nyeeng. But we notice that the suffix is a little bit different. It turns out in Tupi, this is not the only way to make a noun is add an A. You can actually add different suffixes, and they make different types of nouns that do different things. So if nyeeng is falar, then nyeengara is like falanchi. So this ada, which sometimes comes with an S, this ada suffix is like eiru or ador. Eiru, ador, anchi. It's like a person slash agent who does the verb. Does that make sense?
Yeah, really interesting.
It's interesting, huh? So a nyeengara would be someone who speaks. Someone who speaks. Or something who speaks. Could be something. Could be like an animal or something. And we can use that. That's actually a productive suffix. So it gives you a glimpse of the agglutination of Tupi and Chigo. So if we look for ara here, should come up. Let's see. Sada. When it says allomorphy G, then that just means you need to look up this one. It's like just a different way of looking. Here it is. So Sada, sufixo nominalizador. There we go. Nominalizador. So it makes active adverbiais with the sentido de agente. So it gives you the idea that it's an agent. There's also Sara, Ara, Ana. These forms are just phonetic differences. And then they correspond to or, door of Portuguese. Makes sense. So here's a good one. Pesausu pe munhangara. Amai vosso criador. So this one is saying Pesausu pe munhangara. Let's try to dissect this really quick. Pesausu. Have you ever seen this before? Probably not. I've used it in the examples, but we can just go ahead and duplicate this. Search for ausu. So ausu means amar, to love something. If I say pesausu, that's like imperative. Love, I'm telling you, love them. I'm not telling you, I'm telling pe. So I'm telling vos. So amai, that's why they translate it like this. Sounds very religious. Amai. So pesausu, this is the verb. And then what am I telling you to love? You see what I'm telling you to love?
Moyangata?
Yeah, but not only Monyangara, more specifically Pe Monyangara. Because this is something we need to remember about transitives. Transitive verb, let's see if I can paste this all like. No. There we go. Nice. Okay, Pe Monyangara. So the verb here, it says vosso criador. The verb here is monyang. And so monyang means fazer. Yeah, it just means fazer. To make. Let's do this in English. Your creator. To make or to do. So monyang is I'm gonna make something. I'm gonna do something. It's a very general verb. It's a really good verb to learn. Monyang means that. So when we add this ara suffix to it, right? Monyangara, that's like creator, maker, doer, if that's a word.
One who creates.
Yeah, one who creates or does something. Monyangara. But monyang is a transitive verb. And I've told you this rule before, but let me see if you remember. What is the big difference between intransitive and transitive?
One takes an object.
Yes, exactly. One takes an object, but it's not optional. One.
That was it.
Yeah.
I thought it was something a bit more complex.
No, it's simple. They just have complex sounding words in linguistics, but one takes an object and the other one doesn't. So Nyang doesn't take an object because when we speak, we're just speaking. We don't necessarily speak something. So Nyangara alone, that's fine. That just means someone who speaks. But Monyangara alone is not okay because we say, what do they create? The creator of what? It gives us a sense that we're missing something. So that's where this pe comes in. It's the object. So pe monyangara means the creator of you. If we want to say my creator, how do you think we might say that? How would we change the object?
She monyangara?
Yeah, exactly. See? Not too hard. My creator. I want to say our creator. How would we do that? Which one?
No. Would it be The
Inde, that's your creator.
your
Singular, your creator. Only not vosso, but teu criador. Your. If we want to say ours, just go down the list. Ours would be nosso, our creator. You can open the grammar if you want. Look at the lists.
ore
Ore, yeah, that's a good one. So ore is our creator, but not yours. Right? This is the exclusive ours. And then if we want to say our creator, including you.
yande
Perfect. Yande. Yande Monyangara. Our creator. Like that's a very religious sounding word. Yande Monyangara. Nosso criador. Pe Monyangara. Your creator. There's one more. Let's do the last one for third person. Is her, their creator.
ae
Yeah, it would be ae, but in this form, we don't use, so ae is part of the subject pronouns. When we use it in objects, we use the alternative forms. So in this case, it wouldn't be ae, it would be, you know, the other one, alternative. E, exactly. Imunyangara. His, her, or their creator. Imunyangara. And with pluriform verbs, let me just show you. It looks a little bit different for the third person with pluriform. So if we have this verb here, ausub, means, let's separate these a little bit. Okay, so put this back up here. All right, we have ausub, which means what? Do you remember?
to love
Yeah, to love. Ausub, to love. To love is also a pluriform verb, but it's also, or it's a pluriform and a transitive. So it has, instead of E, it gets an S. That's all. So if we want to say a lover of something, how might we do that? Someone who, what loves? Somebody who loves.
ausubare
Yeah, that's pretty good. Good job. Ausubada. Bada. Now, let me just show you something real quick in the playground. This is a really useful thing for you to use. If you're not sure how the phonetic changes work, we can type in ausub into here. We can mark that it's a pluriform and a transitive verb. And then I can say, oh, I want this sad. I want this ending. And then you can see that ausupara. This B, when we add on this SAR, actually turns into a P. And I wrote out the rules for this in this noun section. If you go to the circumstantial form, the ob works in a very similar way. It's a lot to learn, so I would say don't pay too much attention to it now. I just want to show you where it is in case you do want to see it. But basically, when you add suffixes and prefixes in Tupi, this last letter here will change based on the suffix. Does that make sense?
yeah
So when we add the ada, it doesn't become ausubada, it becomes ausupada. Like the B turns into a P just naturally. It's not like anything specific. So we're actually going to turn it to ausupada. So that means what loves? A lover. But we have to say of what? Of what? Of what? What is it loving? Who are we loving? So I want to say, what loves me. Let's try to say that. My lover. How would we say that?
She also para.
Yeah, she also para. What loves me. And the one thing you're going to have to learn about these pluriform verbs when it has this S in the dictionary next to it, S without a period, that is that the root itself, when it's in a relationship, it's going to gain an R in front of it. So it's going to be shirau supara. And so that's the full form. What loves me. Well, let's try to do it again for ende. What loves you. So what should we put here?
Would it be in that?
Nde. Yeah, nde rau supara. What loves you. Let's see. What loves y'all. Let's do the plural now. What loves y'all.
Yande?
Y'all, close. Yande is us. So that's first person plural. So yande would be what loves us. Yande rau supara. And then we got ore as well. This means what loves us, but not you. Right? Exclusive love. What else do we have? And they. All right, let's do for y'all. Second person plural. Y'all. What loves y'all?
Per also para.
Yeah, perau supara. Very good. Perau supara, the person who loves you or the thing that loves you. And then the last case is the most different. This is where we use the e or the ae. So what is your guess as to how we would say this? His, what loves him or her or them.
I actually have no idea.
Yeah, it's
Ir
tough.
also para.
So you'd think it would be e rausupara, but actually when you use e in this form, this is the one form that's a little different. It just becomes an s. So you actually don't even have, you don't even get like a prefix. And it can be easier if I delete these spaces for you to think about it as like the R is just to connect the she and the ausupara. It's purely phonetic. It's purely a phonetic thing. It doesn't change the meaning, the fact that this one has an R and this one doesn't, right? It's just that Monyangara phonetically doesn't need this connecting letter, but Ausupara does. And that's just a matter of learning which verbs are pluriform. I think less than a third of the verbs in the dictionary are pluriform. But yeah, I'll put the spaces now again just because it's easier to separate it in your head. But it's good to think of it as if it doesn't have a space. So Sausupara. Sausupara means what loves him, her, or them. Does that make sense? So this is the third person.
I think I think studying indigenous languages is such a different thing from learning, any other language, because I mean, at least Brazilian indigenous languages didn't evolve based on writing. They didn't have a writing system.
Yeah,
This is something that was done later. So
it's true.
this aspect is like totally different from all the other languages we learn.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And it's weird because at the same time that we're learning it, we have to decide how we want to write it. Like how does it make sense to write it
Yeah.
like this or like that? And we get in arguments about it like, "Oh, I write it with the prefix, I write it like a pronoun, I write it like this." And it's interesting just in like the year, I haven't even been studying Tupi Antigo for a whole year yet. And in this amount of time, like I've seen quite a bit of evolution in the thought process of the people, in that group that I added you. Those people in that group are probably the people in the world who know the most about this language, aside from Navajo, who isn't a part of that group. But the way that we think about it and the way that we talk about it evolves like every day, even though it's such an old language. So it's pretty interesting to watch us like like we literally are rediscovering this language and rediscovering ways in which we can use it and stuff. It's pretty interesting.
Mhm. And also the fact that we have no native speakers to, actually ask, so we
Yeah,
have to figure it out ourselves.
definitely. Yeah, we gotta like basically do an investigation and ask people from neighboring peoples like, oh, how does the Mbuya say this? How do the Paraguayos say this? How do they say it in this language? Okay, how are we gonna say it? Because also, the thing, because some people say like, oh, we should 100% of the time try to follow what the Guaranis and Paraguayos said and stuff. But the thing that we have to remember is that the people who are retaking this language are Portuguese speakers natively. They're not bilingual speakers. So something that might make sense to use in Paraguay, maybe in Portuguese, it makes no sense because people already know those words, like feijoada. Are we going to make a new word for feijoada? Or are we just going to accept the fact that that's a really hard thing to translate because we all know what feijoada is? So why don't we just say feijoada, right?
Yeah.
Even when we speak in Tupi. So it's an interesting thing to try and figure out like, oh, should we try to recreate a new word or should we just use the word that everybody knows already? Because they don't have that problem in Paraguay. They didn't have to say, like, okay, let's unlearn Spanish so that we can learn Guarani. It's a very different mindset, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's basically what the pluriforms look like. You can see the difference here is that Shemonyangara, my creator. Shirao Supara, what loves me. The only difference is that R. It gets a little R at the front. And then in the third person, obviously, Imonyangara, it's not Iausupara, it's just Sausupara with an S. Sausupara, what loves him or what loves her. And the reason they do this is because they're pluriform. Uh, Intransitive verbs don't do this. They don't have pluriform intransitives. Um, they do have pluriform second class verbs, but those are a little bit different. Okay, so that was a little bit of a tangent to show you this ara ending and how that looks. But let's go back to our sentence here. So now that we've gone through this, tupinya enga rupinya engara. So we have ne engara, means someone who speaks. We have tupinya enga rupi. Do you think you can translate this whole sentence now? Do you think we've done enough studying?
Um, I mean, I can try.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, should I translate Bekobe as y'all are alive or as just hi?
Yeah, whatever you want. I'll understand you. As long as as long as I can understand that you understand.
Um, hi, all all 2P speakers.
Yeah. That's basically what he said. He said, hey, every Tupi speaker. So he says, Pekobe,
Okay.
greetings. Opakatun tupinya enga rupinya engara. All of you in the language of Tupi speaking people. That's basically.
Um,
Try saying it in Tupi. I want to hear your accent.
Bekobe, opakatu, tupinge enga, rupi, ingara.
Yeah, that's great. The one thing I'll say is when you see the occlusão glotal, the glottal stop, it's not nyengara, it's nyengara. You got to make sure to put a little in your voice.
Nye ingara. Okay,
Yeah,
I gotta
it's
remember that.
missing an either.
Nye
Nyengara.
ingara.
Yeah, nyengara. Just a little. It's like an extra syllable, a little stop. But that's good. What do you think this rupee means? We haven't talked about this, but you were able to understand the sentence without understanding what this word means. If you just had to guess, you don't have to be right. We'll look up what the word is after.
I mean, I suppose it must be, some sort of connector or something like that. I
Yeah,
actually have no idea.
exactly. It's a connecting word. It's a postposition. So if we had to guess based on looking at this, what two ideas is it connecting? What ideas are we looking at here?
Um, Tupi speakers? No, Tupi and speakers.
So Tupi language and
Tupi
speakers.
language of speakers.
Those are the two things we're connecting, right? And so we're saying speakers, Tupi language, Rupi. So what do you think the meaning of Rupi is based on that?
I mean, I don't think there's, how can I put it? Like a literal translation.
No, there's not. But you can get the idea.
Yeah, it is connecting the two ideas, so this is related to that.
This is related to that. Yeah, it's just a postposition, and there's a lot of postpositions in Tupi. And so this one, Rupi, which is probably is Upi. Yeah, it's pluriform too. So just the same as what I showed you about those roots, some postpositions are also pluriform. So the pluriform is Upi. So if I say, oh yeah, this is one thing I want to mention for you is that in the third person it gets this S, but if the third person is named, right? If I say Kian Rausupara, that means what loves Kian, right? So if we have a proper noun, it's gonna get the R as well. Does that make sense?
Okay, okay.
Even though
I
this
think I
is
get it.
also third person. So these two examples are both third person, but the only time that it gets an S is when we haven't named the third person. For example, if I want to say Ae Kian Rausupara. She is who loves Kian. She is Kian's lover. Like that. Ae Kian Rausupara. That's a sentence. And then if I wanted to say something like using the Sausupara, I could say Ae Kian. And then I could say Julia is the name of my girlfriend. Sausupara, like that. So we've already mentioned the person. So that is Kian. That is Kian. Aekian. Julia is the person who loves him, right? Julia Sausupara. So this S is referring back to Kian, the third person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I've already been mentioned. We already know who the third person is. Aekian, Julia Sausupara. Julia is his lover, like that. That's when you would use the S. But if you wanted to repeat my name, then it would be Julia Kian Rausupara, like that. Julia is the person who loves not him, but Kian again. So, or you can put the Julia at the end. Kian Rausupara, Julia. In Tupi, it doesn't matter which order you say Eu sou Kian or Kian sou eu. It doesn't make a difference. It's just an equivalence. So we don't actually need a verb. We can just put two nouns together next to each other, and that is already like the verb ser. We're already equating those two things. So the yeah,
Okay,
go ahead.
so sorry. How can I know which one is the subject or the the object? Like the object will always be right next to the verb, is that it?
Yes, exactly. So in the case of a transitive root like al sub, the object will always be directly to the left. And the other way is that this R, right? So this R, you can think of it. R stands for relationship. When the verb is in a relationship with an object, the R is like what connects them together, basically. And in this case, it would just be what's on the left of it, right? So She Munyangara, my creator. Um, you know, if we want to say nde she Munyangara, that means your creator of me. That doesn't really make sense. I gotta choose a different verb. Your creator of me. This becomes the subject, the thing that's to the left of the object, and you use these second class pronouns in order to create that. Whereas if I said ende she munyangara, that's not possessive anymore. See the difference? So in this ende is a possessive sort of subject, like you are the possessor of my creator, your creator of me. Doesn't really make sense, but it's the syntax. Then if we say ende she munyangara, that's saying you are my creator. You see the difference here?
Yeah.
So we got one noun, which if we delete this, it might make it easier to understand that that's the object. So she munyangara, there's the object, to make, and then person. And then because it ends with an A, you know that it's a noun. So this is a noun. And then this subject is also a noun because you're saying ende, the noun version of it, not the possessive version. So ende shemonyangara. You are my creator. Or shemonyangara ende, which I personally like to put, I like to put it at the end because it looks a little bit more clear sometimes. But either way works. So shemonyangara ende. My creator is you. Ende. I think this is the kind of thing that gets easier as you look at the language more often. As you start to recognize the roots, you understand that, okay, there's an S here, so that means that there isn't going to be any object. The thing here has to be like the owner, the possessive, because this S is already taking the place of an object. Whereas if you see an R, you say, okay, whatever is before that is also the object. And then whatever comes after must be an equivalent statement, like that. So, any questions?
I mean, I was just thinking, it's not really a question.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes I was, looking the group chat, and I was looking and thinking, like, dude, I know nothing, I was reading and I couldn't understand anything. But then, as I'm looking at this, I realize that sometimes, I do know some of the roots, but the form they're in, sometimes I could not recognize them. So, for example, before this class, if I looked at Tausupara, I would never know there was an Ausub in the middle of that. So
Right.
sometimes it's not that at least for me, it's not that I don't really know anything. It's more that I am not able to recognize the structure.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. So, I mean, in that case, I should probably make another quiz then for these different cases of the words. Because that's what this playground will help you out a lot with. Is when you try to create a sentence, you say, okay, and I have to teach you more about these. There's even more than this, but these different suffixes and prefixes do different things to the verb. Tupi is a very productive language. So if I want to make a concept, I can do so with a root, and then I can just start adding things onto the word until I get the meaning that I'm looking for. Ausubara, ausubaremi, ausubaremiram, buera. See this? The word just keeps getting longer, and we keep adding more cases and context to it. So Tupi can get very interesting. Usually we don't add more than three because otherwise it becomes like impossible to understand, unless you're really intense. But yeah, sometimes like that's a big part of Tupi is being able to like dissect the root from whatever form you're looking at so that you can kind of work backwards, and that's something that takes a long time to get. It takes a while to actually see all the cases for that. Like, yeah, and understand that the P is actually a B, right? Like, oh, I know that after the para, if there's an ada and a P, then that means that the original root must have had a B. Knowing those things takes a lot of time. So yeah, hopefully one day my goal is to be able to take a word like this and put it in here, and then it'll do the opposite. It'll say, oh, that's al sub, and that's the S, and that's the pada, and it'll deconstruct it for you. But in order to get there, I have to finish constructing everything. I have to finish this thing that creates the words. Once we create the word, then we can train an AI to deconstruct the words. And that's part of my master's project. That's going to take a little while.
So cool.
Yeah.
A
Pretty
good
fun.
use of AI. An actual good use of AI.
Yeah, exactly. A useful thing of AI, something that does something that we can't, to teach us. I mean, that's what these quizzes are. The the verb quiz, very useful. And you got 15%, 15 out of 15, I guess. Did you already reach your goal?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't listen.
Oh, did you already reach the goal of 15 out of 15 on the indicative?
Yeah.
Nice. Well, then I guess next time we can talk about the permissive. The permissive mood, very interesting, very different. It's very similar to the indicative mood. The only difference is that, let's see if we can get one. No. Here it is. It just has a T in the front. But we'll talk about this later. I don't want to overload you. Let's just close out the class by talking about rupee because I still haven't explained to you what this word means. So basically, in Tupi, it's not prepositions. Like in English, we would say, "I'm going to the street." You would say, "I'm going street to." You would put it at the end of the word. So, Tupinha enga rupi, segundo, de acordo com, conforme. This is an interesting postposition. Just like you said, there's no exact translation. You have to get the idea after looking at a few different examples of it. But it basically means following within the rules of, conform with. So when I say Tupinya enga rupi, I mean following Tupi language. So I'm speaking in accordance with Tupi language. That's what this rupi means. So it's like in accordance with, basically, rupi. And the word itself is not rupi, it's upi. And then when we put it in a relationship, that's when it gains the R because it's pluriform. So I would say tupi enga rupi would be rugi. Rupi would be following the rules of Tupi language. Tupinya enga rupi anya eng. We'll put that. I speak. Following the rules of Tupi language, I speak. And so this is a circumstance, and then the verb continues to be intransitive. The reason we use a preposition is because it's intransitive. It doesn't take an object. You can't say eng tupi. You can't do that because eng is not transitive. Obviously, if you did, I would understand you, but it's just grammatical rules. And then if you say ishe, let's see, tupinya enga. Let's try this. Aiquab. Aiquab means eu conheço. I know. I know tupinya enga. And then I could say supi anya eng. So do you see that it's the same kind of thing that I was doing down here? So where you say what the thing is already. So I know Tupi language. That's one sentence. And then say supi anya eng. I speak in accordance with it. So when we use the S for a pluriform, it's basically like using it in English, right? It's just a placeholder to refer to something that was already spoken about. Does that make sense to you? Do you see the difference between tupinya enga rupi and just saying supi? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, just like the other case where we already talked about it, so I don't have to repeat
Exactly.
it all over again.
Exactly. It's just like this case where you say Aekian, Julia Salsupara. That's it. That's all the S means in a pluriform. It just means I'm talking about something that was previously stated already. Or if it's not previously stated, maybe it's just like you and I are talking face to face and the subject of the conversation is very obvious that we don't need to say it. Then we could use this Salsupara. But you would only use it when it's like really certain. It's fairly rare to see supi. I don't think I've even actually seen this in practice. I see it in the catechisms, but like in our group chat, we don't really use this. We prefer to be more specific when we talk, just because we're not native speakers. So you'll end up seeing people put it in a relationship like this. Tupinya enga rupi, anyeeng. Following the rules of Tupi, I speak. Tupinya enga ai kwab. Supi anyeeng. Right? I know Tupi. Following those rules, I speak. So that's it. So the full sentence that we learned today, it took about an hour. I think we learned a lot. An hour to learn how to translate this sentence, which was a sentence that another student of Tupianchigo made up this morning. So we're using Tupi, we're analyzing a dead language, but we're analyzing a sentence which was actually spoken this morning naturally by somebody, which is I think that's kind of interesting because usually we analyze the old stuff. So Pekobe,
Linguistics are cool.
go ahead and close out the session by letting us know what does this sentence mean, Bianca?
Hello, all of you who who speak according to the rules of Tupi.
Great, that's amazing. Do you feel like do you feel like you can look at similar sentences now?
Yeah, I think it will certainly take me some time to, actually get that into my head. But I think it was a really good class.
All right, great. I'm glad that it was good for you, and I encourage you to speak more in that group. It's important to, I think, during the learning process in Tupi, it's really important. The only people who really start to speak Tupi are the ones who speak really poorly in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? Like the ones who feel like, oh, I'm just gonna send a message because I don't care. I just want to try to speak Tupi. You go in the dictionary, you find some words, you put it together. Once you send it, then we start having conversations and saying, oh, maybe it's better if you had said it this way, or you should do this instead of that. These processes of forcing yourself to speak in these groups where there are other people who speak better than you, that's the best way to learn. Not studying a list or doing this. Just think to yourself like, oh, I want to say to the group, I'm eating feijoada today, or I want to say I'm going to this festival or something. How do I say this basic sentence in Tupi? And you sit down and you try to make it as ugly as it might look, and then you send it out to the world, and that'll do a lot for you, I think. So I want to encourage you to speak more in the Tupi group. Could be in our own group or could be in the CBP Tupi. You'll have more teachers in the other group than just me.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna send this. I'll just paste this in our WhatsApp group so you can look at this later. Um, but other than that, have a great Saturday. Thanks for coming to class. I almost gave up. I think I might have to change the hours of these classes because I think nobody can come anymore. I don't know if they're just disinterested in Tupi or if they really just can't make the hours anymore. But we might have to change it around a little bit.
Yeah, let's see. Maybe it's a schedule. Thank you for your class.
All right. Thanks for coming. Bye. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Ne'i ne'i.